Have you ever felt like heaven is silent? Like your prayers hit the ceiling and fall back as an empty echo? Have you knelt down with a shattered heart and after whispering, "God, please," heard nothing but the sound of your own breathing? And what about when everything goes wrong at once? When the ground seems to disappear beneath you, doors close one after another. The phone never rings with good news. The medical report brings words you're afraid to repeat. The money doesn't add up. The relationship falls apart. Trust is betrayed. Plans evaporate. What do you do when life doesn't hurt in just one area, but in all of them? Maybe you're living that right now. Maybe you clicked on this video because you're tired of pretending you're okay. On the outside, you still smile and say, "I'm fine." But inside, there's a scream. One no one hears, one you've tried to silence. And in the middle of the chaos, a question grows like a shadow. Is God even listening? You pray, you try to believe, you repeat biblical promises. You tell yourself, this will pass. But when the nights grow too long and your pillow becomes a silent witness to your tears, doubt whispers, if God is listening, why doesn't He answer? That's what we're going to face, not with cliches, not with shallow answers. We're going to step into the pain together and listen to an ancient echo, words spoken to someone surrounded by ruins. Jeremiah. Have you considered the setting when God spoke to him? It wasn't a celebration. Jerusalem was under siege. Fear filled the streets. Destruction felt inevitable. And Jeremiah was in prison, isolated, restricted, watched. Not on a mountain at sunrise, but confined in a courtyard, seemingly defeated. And there God said, "Call to me, and I will answer you, and tell you great and hidden things you do not know. Call to me." Notice what God didn't say. He didn't say, "Fix it yourself." He didn't say, "Be strong enough." He said, "Call." But how do you call out when you're desperate? How do you pray when words won't come? How do you believe He answers when everything screams the opposite? Maybe your desperation has a name. The loss of someone you loved. A house that feels different now. An empty chair that speaks louder than words. And you whisper, "Why, God?" Maybe it's financial pressure stealing your sleep. You work hard, try to stay strong, but the numbers won't cooperate. You look at your children and think, "I can't fail them." Maybe it's your marriage, long silences, conversations that end in conflict. You remember how it started. Now it feels distant, or maybe it's internal. Anxiety, a heaviness you can't explain, a constant sense that you're not enough. When everything falls apart, faith is tested in a raw way. Not Sunday faith, not song lyrics faith, midnight faith, silent room faith. The kind that keeps talking to God even when it feels nothing. Pause for a second. Breathe. Answer honestly, do you still believe God is listening? Maybe your real answer is, "I don't know." And here's the surprise. God isn't threatened by that. Jeremiah 33:3 wasn't spoken to someone strong. It was spoken to a man confined, surrounded by bad news. That changes everything. Your crisis is not proof of God's absence. Being trapped in a situation doesn't mean He stopped moving. But why does it hurt so much? Why doesn't the answer come when we expect it? Could something deeper be forming while everything seems to collapse? Picture Jerusalem surrounded, fear inside the walls, and God saying, I will show you great things you do not know. How do you believe that when your city feels ruined? Maybe your city feels that way now. Maybe you look at your life and think, nothing is left. But what if the invitation still stands? What if, in your prison courtyard, God still says, call to me? Calling out isn't polished prayer. It's honesty. I can't do this. I'm afraid. I need you. How many times have you filtered your emotions in prayer, trying to sound mature while you're breaking inside? God doesn't ask for performance. He asks for truth. Maybe today isn't about understanding the crisis. Maybe it's about speaking honestly, God, I'm desperate. Can you say that? There's freedom in admitting you're not in control, that your strategies failed, that your strength is gone. Desperation is dark, but it can become the birthplace of your deepest prayer. When life is good, we pray out of habit. When everything falls apart, we pray to survive. Maybe you're in survival mode. One day, even 1 hour at a time. Yet you're still here. Still searching. Still listening. That says something. Even in doubt, you're reaching for God. What if that thin thread of faith is enough? Jeremiah had no visible proof things would change, just a word in the chaos. Maybe today you don't need the full solution, just one word. What if that word is, I am listening? God hears more than your sentences. He hears the sighs you can't form, the tears you hide, the heavy silence in your room. If he spoke to a prophet in prison, can he not speak to you in your crisis? But there's one more layer. Sometimes pain carries guilt, the feeling that maybe this happened because you failed. And then prayer feels even harder. Have you felt unworthy to ask for help? Jeremiah spoke to a people who had failed, and still God had said, call to me. The invitation wasn't canceled. That means access is still open. Heaven hasn't shut the door. Your story didn't end with the crisis, but to truly understand what God promises in Jeremiah 33, we have to go deeper. Because hidden in that promise is something that touches the invisible before it transforms the visible. And that's where this story becomes even more profound. There's a part of desperation no one sees. It happens inside. You keep functioning on the outside, getting up, answering messages, working, talking, but internally you're quietly falling apart. There's an invisible crack running through your soul, and you keep asking, is God hearing me like this? Because when everything goes wrong, it's not just the external situation that shakes us, it's the inner conflict. The battle between what you've learned about God and what you're feeling now. You were taught He is good, that He cares, that He answers prayer. But when loss hits, when crisis settles in, when the news you feared becomes real, those truths collide inside you. How do you reconcile God's goodness with your suffering? Jeremiah was in prison when he heard, call to me and I will answer you. He was a prophet, faithful, obedient, yet rejected, persecuted, isolated. Have you ever tried to do the right thing, stay faithful, and still ended up in pain? That creates a deeper crisis. When we fail, at least we find an explanation. But when we suffer while trying to do right, the question grows heavier. God, why? Maybe your pain lives there. You don't understand why they left, why the door closed, why the illness came, why after so much effort, you feel back at zero. And doubt whispers, is God really in control? Does he see this? Does he hear my prayers? In Jeremiah 33, God doesn't start with explanations. He doesn't give a timeline. He simply says, "Call to me, and I will answer." Before restoration, before rebuilding, he invites relationship. What if the greatest miracle in your crisis isn't the immediate solution, but rediscovering intimacy with God? When life is stable, faith feels comfortable. But when the ground shakes and the night feels endless, your prayer changes. It becomes raw, honest, urgent. Pain removes masks. You don't pray eloquently when you're desperate. You pray truthfully. And sometimes all you can say is God, followed by silence and tears. And you think that's not enough? Scripture says the Spirit intercedes with groans too deep for words. Groans. Sounds born from weakness. What if your groan is being heard right now? Maybe you're grieving someone you lost. Grief isn't just absence. It's an echo in every room. How do you pray in mourning? How do you say, "Your will be done," when your heart wanted something else? Or maybe you lost a job, an opportunity, a dream you nurtured for years. No one holds funerals for dreams, but they leave grief too. And again you ask, God, are you listening? Jeremiah watched his city under threat, and in the middle of that, God spoke of restoration, of healing, of rebuilding. But notice, the promise didn't erase the process. There would still be consequences, exile, pain. Restoration would come, but not instantly. This is hard but freeing. God hearing you doesn't always mean he will immediately stop the process. Sometimes he sustains you through it. What process are you in? A long treatment? A painful wait? A season of lack? A silence that won't end? You want God to erase it? But what if instead of erasing, he is writing something deeper into your story? When God says he will show great and hidden things, he points beyond what Jeremiah could see from his prison yard. Maybe you're only seeing walls, limitations, negative numbers, absence, harsh words, diagnoses. But what if there's something you don't know yet? Something God is doing behind the scenes? This doesn't minimize your pain. It's real. Your fear is real. Your exhaustion is real. But what you feel doesn't cancel who God is. And here's something delicate. Crisis can distort our image of God. We start to see him as distant, cold, indifferent. But in Jeremiah's prison, God spoke. He reminded him who he is, the Lord who made the earth and established it. Why? Because when the crisis feels overwhelming, we must remember he is greater. Are you measuring God by the size of your problem, or your problem by the size of your God? If you only look at the crisis, it looks massive. But when you lift your eyes to the Creator of the universe, perspective shifts. The pain may not disappear, but you're not facing it alone. Maybe what's missing in your prayer isn't more words, but remembrance. Remembering who he is, what he's already done, The nights you thought you wouldn't survive, and did. You've crossed deserts before, and here you are, still breathing, still seeking. That matters. But let's be honest before God. Lord, I'm tired. Can you say that? Admit your faith feels weak, that sometimes you pray out of duty, not conviction. Jeremiah wept. He lamented. He questioned. He nearly gave up. And God still spoke to him. If God continued revealing himself to a broken man, he can reveal himself to you. But there's a choice to make. Stay silent or cry out. Close your heart or pour it out. Crying out doesn't just change circumstances, it changes you. In desperation, something inside begins to align. Slowly but truly. Your soul finds an anchor in the storm. Maybe God is building that anchor now. A faith rooted not in visible results, but in His invisible presence. You want answers, clear signs, intervention, and that may come. But often, before external intervention, God strengthens internal structure. What good is rebuilding the city if the heart remains in ruins? Jeremiah 33 isn't just about physical restoration. It's about spiritual renewal, about learning to trust again. Maybe this crisis is teaching you dependence in a way you've never known. It's uncomfortable. No one chooses desperation as a teacher. But sometimes, at the limit, we discover the depth of God's care. Small signs become big. A timely word, an unexpected call, a provision that seemed impossible, a peace that defies logic. They're not full solutions, but they're lights in the night, proof you're not forgotten. Is God hearing you? Yes. Even when you don't feel it, even when you don't see it, even when you don't understand. But there's something even deeper in Jeremiah 33. Something beyond being heard. Something about revelation, about redemption, about transformation. Because God doesn't just promise to answer, He promises to reveal. And when He begins to reveal, everything changes. That's where we're going next. Not just comfort, but revelation. And it may transform the way you see your desperation right now. There comes a point in desperation when you realize you can't fight alone anymore. Not when the problem first appears. Not when the first tear falls. But later, after you've tried to be strong, tried to understand, tried to fix it, distract yourself, ignore it, and nothing worked. It's when you reach your limit. And maybe that's exactly where revelation begins. You've been asking, is God hearing me? But what if He's using this pain to say something you could never hear in comfort? Jeremiah was still imprisoned when he received the promise. He wasn't freed first. He didn't see restoration before hearing God's voice. Revelation came in confinement. Promise came in chaos. What if peace doesn't come after everything changes, but before? What if revelation depends not on external change, but internal transformation? I will tell you great and hidden things you do not know. Desperation narrows vision. You see only the problem. Imagine worst-case scenarios. Anxiety tightens your chest like an invisible hand. But what if there's something you don't know yet? Something God is preparing while you think everything is ending? maybe this crisis isn't the end of your story, but a painful transition into something you'd never have chosen on your own. Loss leaves scars, but scars tell stories of survival. You're still here, wounded but here, tired but still seeking, confused yet still wanting to hear God. That's powerful. Desperation shook your faith, but didn't destroy it. Picture yourself alone at night. Lights off, silence heavy. You whisper, "God, I can't do this anymore." What do you expect? Thunder? A voice? Instant change? What if instead you sense a presence? A quiet peace that doesn't fix everything but holds you steady. Sometimes God's answer isn't removing the storm. It's becoming your anchor in it. Jeremiah needed to know there was something beyond the siege, beyond the prison. God spoke of restoration and healing. Healing. Because crisis wounds more than circumstances. It wounds trust, identity, hope. What if God isn't just gluing the pieces back together, but creating something new from them? There's a moment when you realize you're not in control. That's terrifying and freeing. You can't control time, people, diagnoses, the economy, the past, but you can choose to cry out. And crying out means surrender. I don't know, but you do. I can't, but you can. That's not weakness. It's spiritual maturity. Maybe the peak of your pain is becoming the start of your surrender. You've spent nights replaying conversations, calculating outcomes, trying to predict everything, only to feel more exhausted. What if you simply said, "God, I trust you," even without understanding? Trust feels impossible sometimes. But think about the times you were sustained, when strength came from somewhere beyond you. What if that was grace? Grace holds you up when you have nothing left. Grace keeps hope alive when doubt fills your mind. And here's the shift. God isn't just hearing your desperation. He's working in it. He's shaping something inside you that comfort never could, deepening your roots, teaching you to find Him not only in blessings, but in pain. We live in a broken world. Not everything is caused by God, but nothing is wasted in His hands. An artisan sands and shapes wood. It may look like destruction, but He sees what's coming. What if God sees something in you that you can't yet see? Great and hidden things. Maybe the great thing isn't just an open door. Maybe it's a stronger character, a deeper faith, a real intimacy with Him. Maybe the firm thing is you. Maybe God is making you steadier than the storm trying to break you. Now the question shifts from, "Will you get me out?" to, "What are you forming in me?" That changes everything. You still cry, you still struggle, but hope grows stronger. A quiet conviction that your story isn't over. Jeremiah didn't see fulfillment immediately, but he received assurance. Maybe what you need today isn't a full solution, but the certainty of God's presence. Imagine walking through this knowing you're not alone. Every tear seen, every prayer heard. That doesn't erase pain, but it changes how you carry it. So pause, breathe, Whisper, God, I surrender. Not just the problem, the fear, the guilt, the need to understand everything. Surrender is practical trust. Something may already be shifting inside you. You began asking if he hears. Now you're beginning to see he not only hears, he answers. Sometimes with process, sometimes with shaping silence, sometimes with inexplicable peace. But he answers. What if this crisis becomes the place where your faith turns real? Pain isn't romanticized. Loss isn't minimized, but the process can be redeemed. You are not defined by what went wrong. You are someone who cries out and is heard. And Jeremiah's promise doesn't end with revelation. It points to restoration, to rebuilding, to joy returning where silence once lived. What if what God is starting inside you is only the first step of what he will also do around you? Your story isn't finished, and the next chapter may already be beginning. Now imagine something with me. Picture yourself sometime in the future, looking back at this exact season of your life, the days when everything seemed to fall apart, when you wondered if God was listening, when your pillow absorbed your tears. What will you say about this time? Was it the end or the turning point? Because this is where the story shifts, from surviving a crisis to rebuilding after it. Jeremiah heard God's promise in the middle of chaos. Jerusalem would still face destruction. There would be pain. But God spoke of restoration with certainty, as if he already saw the city rebuilt. Here's what you need to understand. God doesn't just hear your cry. He works on your restoration. When everything goes wrong, life feels like a house after a storm. Roof torn off, windows shattered, furniture overturned. You walk through the mess wondering, where do I even begin? Maybe your emotional life feels like that. Maybe your faith does. Maybe your dreams are scattered like debris. God is not intimidated by ruins. He specializes in rebuilding. Jeremiah 33 speaks of joy returning to the streets, wounds being healed, fortunes restored. God describes a future completely different from the devastated present. Why? Because his promise depends on his character, not your current circumstances. And his character does not change. Be honest. What hurts most right now? The loss, fear of the future, guilt from the past, uncertainty? Name it in your heart. Reconstruction begins when you admit what was broken. Don't pretend it didn't hurt. Don't spiritualize trauma. Don't say, I'm fine when you're not. God works with truth, not denial. Tell him exactly what hurts. Your anger, your fear, your confusion, your exhaustion. Crying out isn't just asking for a solution, it's opening your heart fully. Here's something practical. Turn your desperation into structured prayer. Today, write down what is suffocating you. No filters. Then under each fear, write a declaration based on who God is. I'm afraid I won't make it financially. The Lord is my provider. I'm afraid of being alone. The Lord is with me. I failed and feel unworthy. His grace is greater than my mistakes. This isn't self-help. It's spiritual alignment. You're placing your pain beside God's promise. You may say, "I've heard promises before and still suffered." Yes, because promise isn't anesthesia, it's direction. It doesn't remove the process, but it keeps you from getting lost in it. Let me speak to the fragile part of you that still whispers, "Is God really hearing me?" Yes. When you pray badly, when you pray angrily, when you pray through tears, when you pray in silence, you are not speaking into emptiness. Heaven is not closed. But restoration doesn't always mean going back to what was. Sometimes it means something new, deeper, stronger. You wanted that relationship back. Maybe God is rebuilding your identity first. You wanted that job. Maybe He's expanding your vision before opening the next door. You wish none of this had happened. Maybe He's transforming you from the inside out. That takes trust, and trust grows through relationship. So prayer in desperation isn't just asking for change, it's choosing to walk with God through the crisis. Take a moment now. Breathe. You're still here. Pray this, not mechanically, but honestly. Lord, I'm here tired, confused, maybe afraid. You know exactly what I'm facing. You saw every tear. You heard every silent sigh. When everything went wrong, I doubted. I questioned. Today, I choose to trust that you were there all along. I surrender my loss, my fear, my anxiety about the future, my guilt, my sense of not being enough. You invited me to call on you, and I believe you respond. Even if I don't see everything yet, even if rebuilding takes time, heal what was wounded, strengthen what is weak, restore what was broken. Show me the great things I do not yet see. I don't just want out of this crisis, I want to be transformed through it. In Jesus' name. Breathe again. Maybe you don't feel an emotional explosion. Maybe just a quiet steadiness, a thread of hope. That's how many restorations begin. Not loudly, but with conviction. You don't need all the answers today. You don't need to solve everything this week. You don't need to be strong all the time. You just need to keep calling and keep trusting that God is working even when you can't see it. When fear whispers again, remember, God spoke to Jeremiah in prison. In ruins, He spoke of rebuilding. And in your desperation, He speaks to you. Your story does not end in crisis. It does not end in loss. It does not end with unanswered questions. It continues. One day, you may tell someone else, "I thought God wasn't listening, but He was." If this message touched the place that hurt most, write one word in the comments that represents what you're surrendering today. Fear, grief, anxiety, crisis, not for exposure, but as an act of faith. Share this with someone who may be silently wondering if God hears them. Subscribe to continue this journey of faith. Here we don't pretend it doesn't hurt, but we also don't forget that God restores. When everything goes wrong, one invitation still echoes from heaven. Call to me, and He answers.